Good evening, welcome to my channel. Today I have another random word short story based on 5 random words as ever, and this one entirely suits this dark, wet, miserable, spooky night of Halloween. So I have a strange tale for you. It wasn't really deliberate that the tale suits the occasion, but the words, as you'll see, aren't exactly conducive to something jolly and cheerful. Anyway, the 5 random words that were suggested for today's story are, and this is going to be story number 142, and it's called Blink and You'll Miss It. Decontamination. We're not supposed to use the word anymore. It's thought to be demeaning to the victims. Instead, we say deprogramming or even debriefing, a milquetoast term that hides the full horror of what the entity can do to a person. And it disguises one important truth, that the condition is contagious. Should those dark glasses slip, and should you make direct eye contact with the sufferer, mere moments later you'll have caught it. Except you won't know you have, because the entity's effects are insidious and subtle. We don't know what it wants, and we don't even truly know what it is. It seems to be a transmissible pattern of synaptic alteration, a pattern of rapid eye blinks exchanged between people, causing neural pathways to change, causing behaviour to change. Today's doting husband becomes tomorrow's notorious philanderer. A caring schoolteacher begins to despise and torment the children in her charge. An award-winning test pilot decides that his plane would look good decorating the ragged edge of a glacier. These are not hypotheticals, these are real, awful cases. A spate of inexplicable happenings which some clever mathematician traced back to one source, the manned Mars expedition of 2042. That clever mathematician was me, Dr. Lionel Cromarty, PhD. I swapped my algebraic topology in higher dimensions for programming an AI to identify and isolate cases of dramatic mood swings or behavioural shifts which seem to be uncaused, but which can be linked to an ever-expanding network of human encounters in which a moment of eye contact can rip apart untold lives. People have begun to wear dark glasses as a precautionary measure, in all settings and at all times of day or night. At first it was simply those who felt they might be hosts. Then others began to don shades as precautionary measures. Companies began to make ever more elaborate variations on wraparound ski masks or swimming goggles. Within weeks of the entity becoming a global news story, there was a worldwide shortage of tinted plastic. I've been invited to visit the West London deprogramming facility in Ealing. A site as anonymous as possible was chosen to avoid some of the crazed attacks that similar but higher profile facilities have endured in Paris, Houston and New Delhi. You cross a pedestrian plaza between coffee shops and chic eateries, pass a tower housing a state-of-the-art blockchain storage centre, 9/10 of which are underground. Then take an unprepossessing alley to find a white door halfway down its length. Wear eye protection and press palm plate for entry, the sign demands. No retinal scanning here, for obvious reasons. I'm about to pull up my sleeve and plant my left hand on the plate while I'm fumbling for the disposable shades I bought from the station vending machine. One advantage of being a high-functional autistic savant is that you're used to avoiding eye contact. It's not something I generally do, so I rarely need to make much effort to avoid it. However, I know how much my naked eyes offend people on public transport, or so I've been told, hence the disposables. "You all right?" The voice from behind me is sudden and loud, making me back away and drop my shades. They clatter on the ground as the homeless man shuffles forward. He must have been hiding behind the bins further along the alleyway. "Spare us a few quid, would you?" There's something almost familiar about that voice. Of course, I keep my gaze at the level of his chest, so I can't tell if I've seen him before. He's too close. I can smell the rank odour of a man who seldom has the opportunity to wash. He's a bit of an entrepreneur, however. He's wearing an e-commerce ring, which enables me to flick my own ring to £10 and give him the feeblest of high fives. For a mere instant our hands touch, and his ring glows green and beeps. Transfer made, a benign extortion. The man begins to shamble away, But as I stoop for my shades, he turns and says in a mournful tone, "Thanks, Dr. Cromarty." It's an instinct. Even I can't help it. I look up and we make eye contact. I do know him. That flattened boxer's nose, the angular cheeks, the straggly red beard. A former student? He blinks rapidly, oddly, and I feel my own eyelids respond in kind. But there's a shaft of sunlight angling into my eyes too, so it's probably just that. A second later I've slammed my dark glasses on. My interlocutor is silhouetted in sunlight, walking away. Protocol says I should abandon the meeting, call the helpline, have myself checked into the self-same facility, but under very different circumstances. As a mathematician, I know the chances of having just absorbed the entity are vanishingly small. The last outbreak was in High Wycombe, many miles away. I doubt near Allardyce, yes, that was his name, is much of a commuter. I can take the risk. I have my glasses. I never raise my eyes above chest level. Well, extremely rarely, and in any case, almost all decontamination centre employees are blind. It makes for an odd experience. Lots of near collisions, clacking white canes and the clutching of forearms, but none of that dangerous eye contact. I push my palm onto the warm metal plate, and seconds later the door slides open, and I'm inside. 2 orderlies greet me, one recognising me from the braille pad he carries, which announces my identity with a haptic facial map. Ironically, these blind medics and nurses know my face better than my friends do. I haven't seen my family's faces for months. None of us have. Dr. Cromarty, welcome to West Ealing DCOM. I'm Dr. Sarah Singh, and this is Nurse Derek Benedict. Walk this way. I follow the small steps and clacking canes. I have a strange, uncharacteristic thought. What if I kicked their sticks away, or grabbed and broke them over my knees? The randomly sadistic thought vanishes as soon as it arises, but it troubles me. We enter a large sports hall-sized room where a matrix of cubicles has been set up. A sightless nurse is stationed within each one, questioning members of the public who've presented with contamination fears. There are people waiting on benches stationed all around the walls, glasses on, heads bowed, filling in forms. Most of these folk have nothing to worry about. Pathetic hypochondriacs, snivelling cowards. Would they defend one another if I just strode over and assaulted one of them? I doubt it. They're so cowed by all the entity represents. The superior being which inhabits us as a Strepsiptera parasite takes over a wasp, keeping it alive but enslaved throughout its life cycle, using its body as a receptacle. Let's start with the deprogramming room. Then we'll take a look at how your algorithms are helping us with remote detection and outreach, says Dr. Singh. Her colleague Dr. Benedict has parted company. To be honest, nothing in his ambient prattling interested us. We're alone with Dr. Singh. We decide to take a calculated risk as we follow her into the dark space where victims are supposedly analysed. We take off our shades. The room holds 3 state-of-the-art compact CT scanners capable of making 3D holographic representations of entire brains, including synaptic mapping down to a resolution of 1/1000th of a nanometer. It isn't enough. They'll never find me. Unfortunately, we don't have a patient in here at the moment, but last week we had 3. All had come from High Wycombe, as your mapping software predicted. Singh smiles, looking at us fearlessly. The blind didn't have to modify their behaviour at all, since we can't transmit ourselves that way. But we'll mutate. We'll develop an audio equivalent to reach even their kind. It is inevitable. I laugh aloud, using Cromarty to express myself. This host isn't even fighting. What's wrong with him? Why is that funny? Singh says. She's quite pretty, objectively speaking, for a human. I mean, I've never been to High Wycombe, but... I phase out. She's prattling too. They waste so much time in niceties, these creatures. I could bite her nose off. I could strangle her with Cromarty's tie. But I won't. This host is prized. Dr. Cromarty can gain entrance into the places that we need to be. My approach will require subtlety. Nothing, just a funny thought. Will you show me the new techniques you're developing? Absolutely, Singh says, excited to demonstrate her work. We've been using electrostatic charges to disrupt neuronic transmission. Now this is worth listening to. I slide my shades back on, quietly, so as not to attract attention. There'll be no random acts of violence today. I'm going to play it very straight from now on. There's a reason I've outlasted the others. I don't betray my presence with grandiose experiments like flying planes into glaciers or trying to impregnate as many human females as possible. I am patient. I am cunning. I am the entity. And there you go. Now that's a sort of companion piece to an earlier story, which actually got published, which I will link to at the end of this piece, and you can go back and listen to that. I have to check that these stories actually work with each other, but I think they do. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. I'll be sending that cheerful little piece out to some magazines shortly, once I've worked on it a little bit more, and I'll be back after Halloween with something else for you. But for now, goodbye. That's what humans do when they wave.